Welcome to this episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me from DevilDriver, it is a singer and frontman Dez. We talk about their Bound by the Road tour, featuring also Death Angel, Winds of Plague, The Agonist, and Azrael. We also look back at all kinds of other fun things. Before checking out Dez, please head over to Twitter and give me a follow at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON. And with that, here is the one, the only, from DevilDriver, Dez. We are speaking with Dez of DevilDriver. Their new Bound by the Road tour hits Montreal February 16th, and of course, all over North America through February and March. Dez, always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. Real excited about the tour, and everybody's been really coming forward, giving their support. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so let's talk about the tour first of all. You've got Death Angel and, of course, Winds of Plague, The Agonist, and I guess it's Azrael, I guess is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Azrael.
Azrael. How did the package come together? Are these just bands that you really love? Is it just sort of explain the whole thing?
Well, just so people who don't know, it's like, okay, DevilDriver decides that we want to tour. We talk to the agents and they put it out there to other agents and say, who's available, who wants to go out on the road. And as soon as we started getting submissions, I started seeing it really, really come together. And there was either, one out of two or three bands that we were going to go with for sure for main support. And when I saw Death Angel come across the table, I went, okay, great. This is going to be a great package. The first thing that I look for is diversity in a package. I don't want to put together six bands that, all resemble each other in sound and in look and et cetera. So when Death Angel came across the board there, it was like, okay, let's start here. DevilDriver, Death Angel. And then we heard that Winds of Plague was looking to go out, that the Agonist was looking to do some stuff, and Azrael was coming over here from Australia. So I was like, okay, you're going to be over here. This is perfect for you guys to open the slot. And that's how the bill really got put together. But the way that I put together bills is just that. It's got to be diverse. Every band's got to kind of be different from one another. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and that's great for the fans too. And that's sort of like, the last time I spoke to you, I was telling you before at Heavy Montreal, that's what they do. They get that nice diversity in there. In terms of your own performance, is it going to be diverse in terms of the song selection? Are you sticking to more of Trust No One, or sort of what are your plans for the show?
Well, I mean, with DevilDriver being around how long we have, there's certain songs we just have to play. And the songs that we have to play come in, in the number of like 8 or 9 of them, Clouds Over California and End of the Line, Not All Who Wander Are Lost, I Could Care Less. People who are really familiar with DevilDriver will know those tunes. But for us, what we wanted to do to make it exciting for ourselves and others is not only put together a good package and bring out good production for DevilDriver, but I wanted to put together a set list as well that would resonate with the fans, but give us some moments, exciting moments on stage, playing something different. So, like for instance, we put in "Cry for Me, Sky" from the first record. We probably haven't played that in about 10 years, maybe a little bit less. We put in another new song from the new record. So we added "Grin Fucked," which we have probably not played that song in at least 8 or 9 years. So we've put in some other tunes as well, and I think that's going to be really cool for the people that come out.
Yeah, I think it is, because at some point, when you get to a level, and I don't mean to denigrate Kiss, but a band like Kiss, where it's the same 15 songs for 15 years, that's got to be born not only for the fans, but for the band. So it's nice to hear that you're bringing some stuff back, so people go, oh, okay, I haven't heard this before.
Right.
Do you I guess you don't get bored from playing the songs at some point. You must always find some kind of...
I mean, I don't, and this is funny, like for people listening that are not in music, this is a great conversation to have, because I talk to a lot of band members in other bands, like, well, what do you feel about playing this song that you've played for, 15 years, 20 years? And it's like, the fans want to hear it. It's almost like if you go to a DevilDriver show and you don't hear "Clouds Over California" or "Not All Who Wander Are Lost" or "End of the Line," people are going to walk away probably pissed. Even if they've been, 6, 7, 8, 9 times to see us, those are some of the ones we got to play. So we got to watch out for that. But, you got to slide in some other ones that people haven't heard in a long time, not only to bring them out, but when they get there, they're like, hey, cool, I saw them, a year and a half ago, and now this set list was different. So that's very important.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to have the band rediscover their own songs, and you go, oh, wow, I don't remember how, Um, Let me
Yeah,
talk real.
you're right in that. You're totally
Yeah.
correct in that. We had rehearsals last Thursday and Friday, and on our break from rehearsals, like eating lunch together or whatever, me and Mike were talking, and I said, Mike, like if we have time to come back in the States, which I don't know if we're going to, so everyone should know if you want to see DevilDriver now is probably the point. But if we do have time to come back in the fall time, wouldn't it be cool to do a tour like where we play songs we've never played before? So we could actually say to people, hey, look, none of this set list has been played. And then that's when he brought up to me, oh, dude, there's certain ones you have to play. So, we'll see how it evolves later on down the line. But we're looking to put in, all sorts of stuff that people haven't heard, especially later on this year.
Yeah, I love that. I want to talk to you about DevilDriver and the brand, not necessarily the band, but the brand. You were, of course, in Cold Chamber before, and it did very well, and it was very successful, and you had a very marketable brand. How difficult was it for you to switch in or out of that band into DevilDriver and then build that fan base up?
Well, I mean, anytime you start something new, right?
Right.
I mean, whether it be a band or a new business, you're going to have those ups and downs. I think the people that hung with me coming out of Cold Chamber were probably the heavier side of that listening base. And was it a difficult transition? No, not at all. I mean, everyone who knows me has known that I've always been into aggressive music and, have grew up on old punk rock and old aggressive heavy metal, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm influenced by that stuff as much as I am, Bauhaus and The Cure and Susie and the Banshees or Specimen and, stuff like that. So for me, my musical range is so diverse. And look, it was me saying I want to start something new. And obviously there was going to be some work in it. Now we look back 7 records later and, I don't know, we started in 2002. So do the math. And, and it's still on par. It's doing well. And, the record came out number 16 on Billboard charts, like our highest debut we've ever had, and sold more records than the past one. So we must be doing something correct. And there's been a lot of conversation about that too, because we were just at rehearsals, like, what is it we're doing correct? I think, look, we're keeping to ourselves and we're doing what we do best. We're doing what we want to love, what we love. And I think people see that, and it brings them to DevilDriver, really.
Yeah, you strike me as a guy who might have had that fear of coming out of that brand and go, okay, but you rise to the occasion, which is very, very, special and unique. So it's good on you. Now it's 15 years, of course, of DevilDriver. Any special sort of 15th anniversary things planned other than this tour?
I haven't really had time
Right.
to look back. I mean, to have like anniversaries like that, 15-year anniversaries, what I'm not really looking back. You got to take time to look back in order to have those things. Like nothing special this year other than let's get out there and tour on a record that debuted very high for us, and let's go play some music for the fans of DevilDriver and give them what they want, which is a live show that goes off 110%. I mean, that's really where we are. I mean, if you've heard DevilDriver but never seen us, I mean, that's really our ball game right there, is the live show. We always say if you're going on after us, you're going to pay. If you're going on before us, we're going to make you pay. Like, we are the kind of band that goes out with a strict mindset when it comes to the live show.
Yeah,
in fact, then to get back to, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I've had the pleasure of hearing you and, of course, seeing you live. Talk to me a little bit about how important the live show really is, because, we keep talking about record sales aren't what they used to be and downloads and blah, 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 blah. But it really is, we're at this stage where if you suck live, I mean, you're done. So how important is it for you?
Yeah, if you suck live, you're done. And there's nothing worse than seeing a band that you hear on record over and over, and then you go see them and, they suck. Or the only thing that's moving, the only thing that's going off is the production they brought, the light show they brought. So, no, we have a very intense show where, I would say it's, half punk rock the way that it is. We go off live and we deliver. And I think that's very important for a band. And so, yeah, and especially nowadays, like you said, downloading record sales, such and such. If you're not coming out live and doing it right, you're not going to last very long. That's for sure.
You're not, and it really is sort of the only way to build a fan base, and you have to get out there and you have to be very methodical on how you put together a show, because
it is. Yeah, it's very true. And like, listen, I'm a very private cat, right? But what I do have is social media to reach out to people. And it works for me. So I get on, say Twitter, and I do like one of those GIF polls. I do a poll like, I've seen DevilDriver, once or twice. I've seen DevilDriver 3 times to 7 times. I've seen DevilDriver 7 times to 10 times, or D, I've never seen DevilDriver. And it's incredible the people that came back. It was like they've either seen us like 7 to 10 times, or they've never seen us. And it was literally like, okay, wait, how many people follow me, on whatever, on Instagram, 40,000 people. It's like half of you have never seen me live, and the other half have seen me 10 times. And so my wife made the comment to me. This was like a week ago, actually, that I put that out there just for fun. And my wife made a comment to me. She's like, well, that's incredible. That means you're doing the right thing. That means like everyone who sees you once is coming back, and those people will tell the other people that have never seen you. So, we must be doing something right. And the band is just firing on all cylinders right now. Rehearsal was incredible. We're laughing, we're having a good time. I mean, it's really kind of a great moment to be in DevilDriver right now, for sure.
Do you want to capture this moment for a live album?
We do. Live records just don't really sell, and labels really don't want to put them out. I mean, right. They'll just tell you, well, look, just go to YouTube. There's every song live, which is true. I want to put out a live record. I grew up with Kiss Alive. So like going back to, you said Kiss, I grew up with that record, and that, just, like looking over it every day, seeing people sitting in the audience holding a Kiss sign, and, hearing the fans in between the songs. Like, I definitely want to do a live record. And I would like to do it of Trust No One. We've never played one record in there in its entirety. And I would love to go out and play Trust No One in its entirety and do a live record for that. So we'll have to see. I mean, look, I'm very fortunate right now. I'm with a working partner in Napalm Records that really like aspires to work alongside the artist. Meaning, if I come with ideas, most of the time, and I'll say like 97% of the time, they're down, they're open for the ideas to do whatever. I mean, look, I brought the new Cold Chamber record, Rivals, over to Napalm, and they were like, oh, we love this thing. It's a monster record. And they picked up on it. So it's great to have a working partner that understands the things you want to do as an artist. You know what I mean? And they're also like, they're good with letting you be creative. I mean, unless I come up to them and tell them, I want to wear whatever. I want to wear a donkey costume. I want to do this and that. Then they'd probably step back. Okay, well, wait a minute. But as long as you don't come to them with insanity, they're usually really down with the creative efforts that DevilDriver is trying to do, whether it be touring or recording, the way we want to release, or the first songs we want to release. They don't try to control the photos or the singles or any of that. So that's a great working partnership right there.
Yeah, and there is a fine line between creativity and insanity in a lot of cases. Speaking of that, just in October, you had told Loudwire that you will be hitting the studio for something really special after the Hatebreed tour. Now, well, we're in that sort of time period. Is that still something that's going to happen? This something really special going into the studio to record, and if so, what is it?
I mean, I made a comment regarding that which is funny because whenever I go home or Mike goes home, we're technically in the studio. I mean, I've got a studio here at my house. I woke up this morning and went down and wrote for 2.5 hours till I had to go to my chiropractor before I had to go on tour and break my neck again. So that being said, we've been in the studio since we finished Trust No One, doing something that's very special, that's pretty spectacular. I know that it's never been done, actually. And, other than that, not too many things I can really say about it. But again, that goes back to speaking, regarding Napalm. I came up with some idea. A lot of people leaked out another idea too, that I was like, wait, that's far from what we're doing. But if everybody wants to kind of be skewed on that, then it'll be good, a good cover for when we do come out with what we're really doing. But right. There's going to be, there's a lot of work being put into what we're getting ready to do. There's a ton of A-list people coming in that want to record alongside or with me on some stuff. So, we'll really see what happens in the future here. But we're always in the studio. So to say like we're hitting the studio to come out with something spectacular, it's more like we're always in the studio. And when we're done working on what we're working on right now, which could be a year or it could be 4 years, when it's done, it's going to be something absolutely spectacular.
Okay, yeah, and of course, what people ran with because you had sang a Jamie Johnson track. They were like, "Oh my God, he's making a country album here. There's a country DevilDriver coming up."
Yeah, right. Well, look, suffice it to say that DevilDriver is not doing country music country. That's not happening. And I sang the Jamie Johnson stuff. I really, really love that cat. I think he's, I listen to a lot of different music. People who follow me know I listen to everything from blues to black metal to outlaw country to funk. I've got my ear to the ground. I mean, I know, new young bands, by the time they come up and get a deal, I've already been listening to most of them for a year. So that, that being said, yeah, when I walked away from that interview, I sung a country song, so I totally got it,
Yeah, the country album. Now, the day that we're talking here, it's January 30th, 1973. Kiss played their first ever show, and you mentioned Kiss Alive, which is one of the, I guess, 3 greatest live albums ever. What did that album and band mean to you in sort of your musical formation? Was that sort of the epiphany where you went, I want to be a rock star.
Well,
I want to do this.
I think the aha moment for me was like in, 3rd or 4th grade, where my friends would come home and get, a sandwich in their hands and sit in front of the TV, and I wouldn't. I went to my parents' record collection and started digging stuff out, like Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild, and The Doors, and, the Animals, and like, you know what I mean, like Rolling Stones and stuff like that. And that's what made me, I was always consumed with music. I mean, like hanging the posters from, hanging the posters from records on my walls. And I was in the Kiss Army. But for sure, when that record went out, it was like, I told my mom, hey, take me. And she took me, and I bought that record and immediately put the poster on my wall and, immediately joined the Kiss Army. And I just loved it. I loved the image, and I dug the music. And the fact that it was a live record, gave me it felt like it gave me an insight to the band. I saw pictures of their fans, so like I knew what they all looked like. Okay, those are the kids that are listening to them right now, and so cool, they're all one of us, because at that point, I mean, I had long hair basically almost all my life, so I was like, okay, cool, and I started identifying with musicians and music crowds and people who listen to music. And my whole life has been surrounded by friends who listen to music. And I've always said it to my wife. It's like, even when we were raising our kids and I had to go to PTA or go meet with other parents, it's like, man, I don't want to meet with them, man. They're weird. Like, they don't even listen to music. Like, their lives are consumed by, other shit, which is cool. But like, they don't have musical preferences. Like, I won't even know how to relate to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a ton of people out there that are like me, that are like, yeah, you're right. Like, and I call them normal people, like just normal people that like just don't listen to music on a daily basis. Like, it's real weird for me, Yeah. And that's probably, which is weird. It's probably like 50% of humanity.
Yeah, you see, I'm with you. I listen to music all day long. I mean, this morning has been nothing but Tigers of Pantang, and
rad. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go old school, right? And then of course,
we woke up this morning. We woke up this morning, and she put on some old psychobilly stuff, and then I started the shuffle on old school punk rock, and then she started the shuffle on like a bunch of newer bands that we're both listening to, and like it just like it goes the gamut in my house. It's like it's rare if I sit down and actually watch an hour or two of TV, unless it's like a movie and I'm looking to shut my phone off and get out of the world for a minute. But yeah, it's my whole life has been surrounded by music and musicians and music people. And I mean, I ran away from home at an early age. I headed to LA. I was in bands. I slept under bridges. I slept in rehearsal rooms. I fucking robbed AM/PM for money. I mean, for food, because I had no money. You know what I mean? And like, it was like that, it was like everything I could do, anything I could do. If I had to sneak in something, to a 7-Eleven at 2 a.m. and get myself, hot dogs because I was hungry and I was living on the studio floor, that was all I cared about, because my band was going to be there the next day and we were going to rehearse. So I've always been consumed and obsessed with music and being in bands. I mean, that's the way it's been my whole life.
Well, that is
to
life.
To the detriment of my parents, I should say. Only now that they look back and go, okay, we saw your path. And I was like, if only you would have fucking backed me instead of kicking me out of the house, it would have been a lot easier. You know what I mean? It'd be a lot easier to convert your fucking garage to a studio for your kids rather than see them out on the fucking streets or wind up in jail like me, you know? So,
Now that you mention that, though, how sort of gratifying or rewarding is it for you to look back on the career and say, motherfucker, I was under a bridge and I was at the AMP stealing food, and look at me now. I'm headlining my own North American tour. I've got Trust No One that's been... I mean, how much more rewarding or satisfying does it make it?
Look, I just did that. I just took my wife up to L.A. A buddy of mine was in town. Like, this goes to say, again, I listen to all sorts of music, but Excision is a good friend of mine, and he was in town doing 3 nights sold out at the Hollywood Palladium, and I took my girl up, and we stayed at the hotel where I was staying at the time, making chamber music when I met her. We hadn't been back in like 19 years, and on the way home, I said, hey, I'm going to take this detour here, and I'm going to go down to the end of Sunset over by Western, and I'm going to show you, something. And she was like, cool. And like, we stopped the car and got out, and she was like, what are you showing me? I'm like, that's the AM/PM that I snuck in to get food. And actually, I call it robbing, but the guy was so cool that when I would come in, he knew we were all hungry little street rats, and he would just kind of turn his back and let us take some food. And we would smile at the guy. So it actually wasn't, it was him just kind of saving little street rats. And I pointed out, I was like, I stayed under that bridge for 4 nights right there. And the third night I had to fight literally for my fucking life. So I think she got a grasp of it. And on the way home, she was talking about a lot of that. Like, doesn't it feel good, honey? I mean, look, you raised a family, you off of art, look where you came from. I really got no time to think back like that. All I know is from the day I could think about music, I've been consumed with it. And I backed my own play. If there's parents out there with kids, that are into music listening to this, by chance, do what I did. My kid came home in 6th grade and said, I want to be a drummer. It's like your worst nightmare. It's like, okay, yeah. Wait, you want to be a drummer? It's like, okay, well, A, I'm going to have to buy the kit. B, I'm going to have to pay for somewhere for you to rehearse, or I got to put up with it at the house. It's like, it took me 24 hours to go buy him a full kit with a rack, put it up in his room, and go jam anytime you want. The only time I'll tell you to turn it down is if somebody comes and knocks on my door that's a neighbor. So you got to be really, really, really supportive, Other than that, man, I look back on, on a career that's filled with a lot of work and a lot of ups and downs, a lot of really passionate, beautiful moments, a lot of really painful moments. But I keep my head down. I keep a very positive attitude. I love music, and I love the fans that have allowed me to do this for so many years. And so I keep doing it. I keep doing what I'm doing from my heart, and people keep coming to the shows and keep supporting the record. So I'm extremely pleased, and I'm very thankful, But that's been the thing about me, man. I've never let the ego from being a singer in a band or whatever take over my life, man. I live in a neighborhood where everybody hangs out. I come from a blue collar working class family, and the only time the ego will get to me is, 5 minutes before stage when I get the microphone. That's when it's supposed to, right? That's when it's supposed to take over.
You're supposed to psych yourself up for a show, right? I mean, like a football player or a hockey player or whatever who's
absolutely
getting ready for the big game.
Totally. And absolutely, that's where that kind of like thing exists. Otherwise, I haven't really had the time, like you said, like to look back or doesn't it feel good that this and that? It's like, I'm going to do that one day, but right now I'm so looking forward,
Yeah, you'll save that for the book. Now, of course, I see we're running out of time, but just Trust No One came out just under a year ago. Where are you in terms of the next one, or are you just happy to let this one live for 2-3 years and don't bother me, I'll get to the next one when I get to the next one?
No, man, because, I really, look, when I was growing up, you got a record a year from bands that you liked, and, that being said, it's like, I try to get a record out every 2 years with DevilDriver. I think it's only 8 months old, 8 or 9 months old right now. Trust No One.
Yeah, it came out in May 2016.
So we've been writing, and we'll see what happens. I'd like to get a record out every 2.5 years or every 2 years if it's at all possible. And so would my label, and so would people, because I did another thing on Twitter too. These polls I'm running away with them. I'm loving them. And I did another poll that said, from my favorite band, I want A, a record every year, B, a record every 2 years, C, a record every 4 years, and D, a double record. And it's like everybody wanted either a record every 2 years or wanted a double record, which was a trip to me. So, but yeah, we try to get a record out every 2.5 years, and we have been writing. constantly. Like I said, I mean, me and Mike write daily. I wrote 2 songs this morning. One of which, a chorus that I wrote, I think, is definitely spot on to be, either the opening one or second on the list for sure.
That's great. And as we run out of time, let me just ask you, in terms of other musical.
By the way, I think you got about 5 or 10 more minutes, so we're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they said 25, so we're at 25. But in terms of other musical endeavors, is DevilDriver the focus for sort of here on out, or do you see yourself going back with another band or starting a new project, or where do you see yourselves in terms of just career?
Right. I see myself just doing music. I think my focus is music. And music in my life here is, in my world, is DevilDriver, is Coal Chamber, is Born of the Storm that I did with Mark Morton, is some other side stuff that I've been working on for, like a year and a half, 2 years. There's always music to do. I even did a thing called High Desert Moon, where it's like I play Native American flute, and there's all sorts of spoken word on it and stuff. And I was brought into the Coyote Pass clan with the Navajo in Window Rock. So by proxy, I'm Navajo, and so I released that, and that got picked up by this movie High School, and there's a song in there called Peyote Coyote. So for me, music is just, it's all over the place. It's not, and I love those artists that can do multiple bands and multiple things with their life. I mean, I respect guys like Corey Taylor, for instance, who does Slipknot, Stone Sour, like Danzig, he does Misfits, he does Danzig, he does all sorts of other stuff. Like I've always looked to, Ozzy, he's doing Sabbath, he's doing Ozzy, and so I look to the dudes who kind of can do different things, but music's all around me, man. It's important for me to not limit myself by anything that I do, for sure.
Okay, so then at some point, because you just mentioned Coal Chamber, they are on hiatus. You do maybe think that somewhere down the line you get a call, hey, let's do this again, or maybe not?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's something I don't think about. I mean, if it comes around, I mean, look, I talked to Mikey, the drummer, today, and I talked to Nadia today. It's not a matter of no one's talking or any of this. It's just a matter of like, what do we want to do? When do we want to put stuff together? What do we see for the future? How is everybody? We went out with that record. The Rivals record did really well for us. A band come back after 12, 13 years gone, debut where we did, and then have sold out shows all over the world was magnificent, right? So, but that band, you can't push that. That has to come when the magic is around, really. And that time it took 13 years. Let's hope it doesn't take that long ever again,
You just sort of mentioned that it comes when the magic is there. Is that sort of how you see putting together records, even Trust No One and the DevilDriver stuff? Like you can't just sort of lock yourself in a room and say, okay, I need 10 songs, I've got an hour. Is that sort of how you work in terms of putting together material?
Yeah, definitely. And if you do that, if you lock yourself in and go, we have to be done with this because we're under contract, but we're uninspired and it's obvious that we're uninspired, all you're going to do is kill yourself, kill the band, kill the project. People are going to hear it. That's why people love Trust No One so much, and that's why it debuted so high, is because people could feel the work in that record. When you hear Daybreak or you hear Night Sky, you can feel the work in it, and I think that's important. You got to be inspired to make art. Art is not collateral to be based off of money. See what I'm saying? You don't go in and do art for money. You go in, you do art because you're inspired, and then if something comes of it and you can pay your bills, then you're stoked, Yeah,
I fully agree. Now, I hear the chimes in the background. That means you probably have another interview coming up. So, Dez, a great, great pleasure. Always fun to have a chat, and, continued success.
Great, man. Thank you for talking to me, and thanks for the support, and hi to everybody out there listening. Go pick out DevilDriver, and we'll see you at the shows.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, bro.
Bye-bye. And there you have it, folks. My interview with Dez from DevilDriver. The new Bound by the Road tour is going on. So please head over to DevilDriver.com for more information. And while you're checking stuff out, please head over to Twitter and check me out at Mitch Lafon. MITCHLAFON. You can also find me all over the place on Facebook, Instagram, and all those wonderful things. There you go. Au revoir. Arrivederci. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye. Bye for now.